The Curious Case of the Lost Umbrella. Characters: Alice, a young woman living in London. Mr. Thompson, a kind elderly neighbour. Inspector Green, a detective from Scotland Yard. Alice had always been meticulous about her belongings. She lived in a quaint flat on Baker Street and loved the hustle and bustle of London. One dreary afternoon, she realised her beloved umbrella was missing. This wasn't just any umbrella, it was a gift from her late grandmother. A family heirloom. How could I have been so careless? Alice muttered to herself, searching every nook and cranny of her flat. Vocabulary: meticulous, showing great attention to detail. Quaint, attractively unusual or old-fashioned. Hustle and bustle, busy and noisy activity. Dreary, dull, bleak, and lifeless, depressing. Heirloom, a valuable object that has belonged to a family for several generations. Nook and cranny, every part of a place. Alice decided to ask her neighbour, Mr. Thompson, if he had seen the umbrella. Mr. Thompson was a retired professor who spent most of his time reading by the window. "Good afternoon, Mr. Thompson. Have you by any chance seen a black umbrella with a wooden handle around here?" Alice inquired. Mr. Thompson looked up from his book, adjusting his spectacles. "Ah, Alice. I did notice an umbrella fitting that description in the hallway this morning. Perhaps someone picked it up by mistake." The barrister shook her head. "Sorry, Alice. Haven't seen it. But Inspector Green was in here earlier. You might want to have a word with him." Alice thanked Mr. Thompson and decided to visit the local cafe, the Drizzle, where she often went. She greeted the barrister and described her missing umbrella. Alice's heart skipped a beat. Inspector Green was a well-known detective at Scotland Yard. She rushed out of the cafe, her mind racing. Why would a detective be interested in her umbrella? Vocabulary: inquired, asked. Spectacles, glasses. Barista, a person who serves in a coffee bar. Skipped a beat, felt excited or nervous. When Alice found Inspector Green, he was at the newsstand, engrossed in the latest headlines. "Excuse me, Inspector Green. I heard you were at the Drizzle earlier. Have you by any chance seen my umbrella? It's quite precious to me." Inspector Green turned to Alice with a curious smile. "Miss Alice, I believe I have some good news for you. The umbrella you're looking for is at Scotland Yard. One of our officers found it abandoned on the bus this morning. It's quite a unique piece, isn't it?" Relief washed over Alice. "Oh, thank you, Inspector. I was worried sick." The inspector chuckled. "Come by the station, and we'll return it to you. But do be more careful next time, eh?" Alice nodded, her cheeks flushing with gratitude. She followed the inspector to Scotland Yard and reclaimed her cherished umbrella. Vocabulary: engrossed, fully absorbed or occupied. Relief, a feeling of reassurance and relaxation following release from anxiety or distress. Chuckled, laughed quietly. Flushing, becoming red in the face, typically from embarrassment or gratitude. That evening, as she sat by the window, watching the rain patter against the glass, Alice reflected on her day. She realized that sometimes, even the most careful people could lose things. But with a bit of luck and the kindness of others, they could often find what was lost. British English idioms. By any chance, possibly. Worried sick, extremely worried. Nodded, Moved the head up and down as a sign of agreement. Pronunciation tips. Umbrella. Stress the second syllable, umbrella. Abandoned. Pronounce the second A softly, abandoned. Reflect. Emphasize the second syllable, reflect. Practice questions *. 1. What does meticulous mean, and how was Alice meticulous about her belongings? 2. Explain the idiom hustle and bustle. 3. Why was the umbrella important to Alice? 4. What did Inspector Green find intriguing about the umbrella? By reading and understanding this story, learners can improve their vocabulary, grasp the usage of idioms, and practice pronunciation in the context of British English.